Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about my migration journey from on-premises to Azure Cloud, the project that I'm working currently. So we are doing the migration, so from on-premises to the famous Azure Cloud, right? So in this entire video, I will share my experience and methodology that I followed and how we achieved the migration and all these details I will cover in step by step, right? So these are the topics that I'm going to cover entire video, right? Without getting any delay, let's get into the details. The main goal of this migration is we want to migrate our multi-dimensional SSIS cube to Azure Tabular Cube. So why we are doing this? Because the main goal is multidimensional cube is pretty old. It was like almost 20 years old technology. And if you notice that recent Microsoft updates, so most of the time they are focusing only on the tabular cube. They are really not making any good improvements on the multidimensional cube. That is the one reason. And the second reason is multidimensional cube is more disk based oriented, so it requires a lot of disk space, and it's always connect to the disk and try to fetch the data and keep the data into caching, right? To bring the data, to read the data from the disk, you need a lot of CPUs instead of the RAM, right? So nowadays if you look at horizontally vertical scalability of the infrastructure, so it's getting the RAM is more cheaper than CPUs, right? So that is another factor that is impacting to migrate the MOLAP cube to Azure Tabular Cube. And the last point, the last reason is we don't know. So when the Microsoft is going to, stop supporting the MOLAP cube. I know, so they're not going to support it, but we don't know, right? It's a potential risk for us, having this, maintaining this MOLAP cube in on premises. So these are the three factors impacted, and our business is start thinking, and they requested us to start migrating the MOLAP cube to Azure Tabular Cube. Again, so the experience that I'm going to cover only related to this migration from multidimensional to Azure Tabular Cube. Topics that I'm going to cover. First one, we'll understand the what is on-premises architecture, what is the current situation, um, and what is the dependency, what are the pros and what is the cons. And after that, we'll quickly go through the what is Azure Cloud, and we'll quickly talk about the Azure Cloud, and then we're going to discuss on the how we transform our project from on-premises to Azure Cloud. What are the different steps that we followed that I mentioned here, and then fourth topic we're going to share conclusion and tips. What are the my based on my experience, how you can handle the situation. Again, it's a completely my own methodology that I followed with my enterprise architect, and then we took all the necessary precautions, but the same scenario can be changed to the project to project. Okay, so maybe this video will help you to think about your project migration, and some of the parts it will help you to where to start, how to start, and all those details you can get it from this video, right? So let's go into the first topic, which is understanding the on-premises architecture. Premises infrastructure, everything will be hosted in one place, and there are the multiple team members that will take care of things in individually. So especially if you look at there are the 9 components that will come to the picture on the on-premises infrastructure. The first one is the applications. The applications will be developed like your web application or mobile applications. So these applications will be developed by one team, and then there will be the data. So whatever the data that we display or that we process in these web applications, there should be one database or data warehouse that will be there. We call it, typically we call it a backend team, and we call it application team as a front end team. So there will be separate teams that will be taking care of these two activities. And then runtime, there will be third team members. They just run the show. It's like a support team. So it's support team and data stewards, right? So where they process the data into your database under the data warehouse, and they do trigger the SQL agent jobs or other jobs or processing the data, processing the reference tables. All those activities will happen through the runtime. So this is called support team. And then middleware. No, middleware is nothing but in case if you need additional softwares that supports your project, then you need to install, or maybe you need to ask your internal IT team to install it, right? And the OS needs to be installed, and virtualization. Your servers needs to be virtualized, right? So then you will have a infrastructure team separately who take care of OS and virtualization. If at all you need more capacity, more RAM, more CPUs, and the more servers, then you need to have the separate servers. And then storage, even storage also, if you're following the traditional storage, where you maintain your hard disk and all those things, then it's a very tedious task. But luckily, if your servers are connected to the data centers, then you can increase your storage at any time. And then the last one is the networking. So networking is all your organization infrastructure, right? The servers needs to be connected. For that, it's required networking. All these 9 components needs to be managed different teams within the organization, right? So that's how the on-premises infrastructure works. And but these everything that you design, right, once you design it, it's a stall. So probably you can install additional software, or you can run your OS updates. But apart from that, if you yeah, your data can be ingested more, and your application more applications you can build. But the minute you want to increase your servers or virtualization or storage or change the networking, then you need to spend a lot of money, and also you need to spend a lot of time, right? So you cannot just like install the 2 or 3 servers in 1 hour, right? So you need to order the servers and get the servers and install and do all the necessary setup and bring into your network. There is a lot of manual activity that will be involved, right? So this is the traditional approach. All these 9 components needs to be managed by you is nothing but your organization, right? That is the on premises. So you can consider all these dependency like you know drawback, right? But good thing is, nobody, the data will be more secured because it's on premises, it's not open. So it will be more secured, and you will have own control on your data, right? So this is about on-premises infrastructure, right? Now the another drawback of on-premises infrastructure, whether you have a work or anything, no work, or whether you use the servers or not, you need to procure the servers and keep it and run it, right? Let's say you're not using 2 servers, but even though you're not using those 2 servers, still you need to run the power, run the cooling operation, and run the support, everything you need to run, right? Which is additional maintenance cost for, right? So that's where on premises is lagging. So in our scenario, we have a totally 3 environments: dev, test, and production environment. First we develop the things in dev, then we move the things to test, and then move to production, right? Whether we run anything or not, these servers will be keep on all the time up and running. So that's about on-premises infrastructure. I hope it's clear what are the limitations within on-premises infrastructure, what are the drawbacks and all. Now let's move on to the cloud. What is the cloud? What is cloud? So it's a packed technology services, right? Which includes the compute, storage, databases, networking, and software, and monitor, etc. Okay, so using these packed surveys, right? So only you can access through the internet, over the internet, and pay what you used for. Okay, so this is kind of one package that you access through the internet wherever you're connected, and then pay what you used for. That is called a simple way of telling the cloud. Now, under the cloud, so there are many models, right? So one is the traditional on-premises model, and then infrastructure as a service, which is called IaaS, and platform as service, and software as service, right? Presently in the market, there are mainly 3 providers. You can say like 3 big companies they are providing. I mean, they are occupying the more market coverage. One is the Azure, and then Amazon, which is AWS, and then Google Cloud. So these three are the major, ruling the market in the cloud platform. Now, before we go into the models, we could quickly compare the on-premises versus cloud. So if you take the on-premises, it's a very less scalable, as I mentioned, right? Whenever you want to increase the CPU or RAM, you need to place the order, and then you can order it and get the those CPUs and RAM, then install it will take a lot of time. But in the cloud, it's scalable. That means you can increase anything. You can increase your RAM and CPU just like in few clicks, right? And then again, setting up anything in the on-premises, it's a time-consuming setup. But in cloud, it's a very fast setup that you can do it. But if you want a new server, you can just order it in few clicks. And then on premises, whether you use the infrastructure or not, it's ongoing cost. You need to run the power bill, you need to run the coolant, you need to run the security and everything you need to run, which is ongoing cost. But cloud, it's a pay as you go. What you used for it, pay for only that, right? That is the difference between on premises and cloud. Now coming to the models, we already talked about the traditional on premises model. So still, traditional on-premises model, they call it like a private network or private cloud. Okay, so especially this private cloud, they follow like some government securities. Like if you take the US federal, right, they cannot rely on the public cloud. They need to have the private cloud. That means they will raise the request to Microsoft and ask for the setup. Then what Microsoft will do, they will go to the federal government, their premises, and set up everything, which is the private cloud. Now the next one is okay, in private cloud, the Microsoft team will manage everything from the application data, runtime, middle. I mean, so the federal government maybe give a contract to Microsoft, and they will manage all these components. But when it comes to the infrastructure as service, the infrastructure as service is nothing but where you go with virtual machines, where you place your virtual machines from the Azure or AWS. So when you order the virtual machines, right, some of the few things you need to manage and few things will be managed by vendor. The vendor is nothing but again the service provider, which can be Microsoft, Amazon, or Google. Let's say you have procured this virtual machines from Azure, Microsoft. So when you procure servers, so the virtualization, server, storage, networking will be managed by Microsoft completely, where you will not have any control. And then rest of the components like applications, data, runtime, middleware, and OS upgrade. Sometimes the Microsoft is keep on upgrading the OS, but maybe you don't want to upgrade the OS, right, because of your various factors, right? But Microsoft will give an option to upgrade whenever you want. So such scenario, you need to manage all these 5 components, and remaining 4 components will be managed by Microsoft. That is about infrastructure. So it's a purely virtual machines that you place it and you can access and use it. And then there will be cost associated when you go to the virtual machine. I'll show in the upcoming I'll show you in the few minutes how these infrastructure costing that we can do. Now moving on to the platform as service. When you go for the platform as a service model, so 7 items, the bottom 7 items will be 7 components will be managed by Microsoft, which are runtime, middleware, OS, and virtualization, and servers, and storage, and networking. All these components will be managed by Microsoft. But your application and data will be managed by you. So where you develop the your database and your applications, and then you deploy to the platform as a service, which is a cloud service, right? That's about the platform as service. So when you use the platform as service, you will have a lot of more tools to access to monitor your application and all those things, right? But yeah, but the platform as service also very good, right? So if you go with platform as service, you don't need to run any, let's say you're running some forecast models on monthly basis, right? Maybe last 2 days of month you can use the service, and the rest of the days you don't need to use the uh, your servers. I mean, servers in the sense the configurations, right? So in the platform as service, you have that flexibility. You can ramp up the RAM and CPUs to the next availability model, I mean, next available slot, or you can decrease it when you don't want it. Typical example is the Black Friday, right? So where they run a lot of Amazon or a lot of stores, they run the promotions, right? During the time, what they do, so they just increase the number of CPUs and RAM, predicting that there will be a lot of users will start accessing their web application. And then once that Black Friday is over, they will ramp down the infrastructure. So such scenarios, the PaaS will be helpful. right? And now moving on to the software as service. Software as service is completely managed by Microsoft. You don't need to do anything. They will take care of everything. The best example is use the MS Office, right? All these are come under the software as service, right? So these are the cloud computing models that are available. All these models like infrastructure, PaaS, and software, all these will be hosted in the public cloud. And if at all you don't want to share your data or share your infrastructure with outside, then you can raise a request to Microsoft for private cloud. Okay, so again, they will make you dedicated infrastructure for your requirement. Okay, but again, infrastructure will be in your control, but PaaS and software as service will not be in your control. They will completely take care of it. Then they will provide the proper security to your data and your applications. So that's a high level of the cloud, because the cloud concept is a lot. There are a lot of tools out there in the cloud. I don't want to share all those details and confuse you. So that's the reason I'm just restricting what we require to understand the cloud in basic way. Then I shared it. Now we'll move on to the next detailed topic, which is initially I mentioned, right? So the next thing is we're going to talk about third topic, which is how we transform our project from on-premises to Azure Cloud. So please remember that. So here our major goal is to migrate from multidimensional cube to Azure Tabular Cube. That is our primary goal. In parallel with that, we want to shift our Tabular Cube, Azure Tabular Cube, to the cloud, right? So what we did, so we have already developers, right? So we don't keep them idle, right? So we need to start utilizing them. So what we did, to utilize them, in the first step, we installed Tabular Cube within our on-premises servers, right? And then the developers will start, doing the analysis and start integrating the facts and dimensions from multidimensional cube to Azure Tabular Cube. That is the one activity is happening inside. And parallelly, what we did, so for this step two, procuring and configuration of Azure infrastructure, right? So now here is the tricky part in step two. Uh, we don't know how many servers we required and what is the RAM and CPU capacity that we required, right? So what we did, we took the on-premises servers infrastructure as our, benchmark. Taking the reference of that benchmark, then we start procuring the Azure virtual machines. Okay, so how we did that costing and all in the Azure missions, right? Probably I'll show you. So what we did, we go to the portal.azure.com. So you can register with that. And then once you register, then it will open you go to the home. Under the home, you will get the many options. Okay, so where you get what are the resources are mapped and what are the other costing resource groups that is mapped and all. So the home is literally like your one place to manage your entire Azure portal or Azure infrastructure. Under the Azure portal, you need to go to cost management. So click on the cost management. Then here you can do your cost analysis. Okay, so once you go to the cost management, and here you have an option called view pricing calculator. Click on the view pricing calculator, then it will take you through the pricing calculator side. Okay, so here what you can do, you can, if you already know that what are the servers and what are the things that you need, then you can directly choose them and you can select them and you can take the quotation. Otherwise, if you're not sure, if you are new and you don't have a benchmark or any previous reference, what is the current infrastructure or anything, then you can go to the example scenarios. Under the example scenarios, the Microsoft provided the typical scenarios, right? The real-time scenarios. Based on that, they recommended some infrastructure. So what are how the workflows works and how the things will connect, and based on that, you can do your costing. Let's say I have advanced analytics on big data. For this is the architecture, right? And similarly, you have continuous integration, continuous development for Azure Web Apps. For these kind of applications, they have a different infrastructure. And similarly, you have machine learning. So to run the machine learning workflows and to access the data in the Power BI dashboard, this is the infrastructure that you need it, right? Let's say I want real-time analytics. For this, I need This is my workflow. Let's say I add this one to estimation. When I click that, right, so it will provide you the cost. Okay, what are the things that you require to fulfill that kind of real-time analytics project? It will add it. You can see here. So the Snaps Analytics, there where you can procure the Snaps database, which will cost you monthly $2,000, and Azure Analysis you required, which will cost you $95. And similarly, Power BI platform you need for your dashboard reporting, where it will consume the $1,500. And then storage accounts. So within the storage account, there are different types of storage accounts. I'll explain in just in few minutes. But yeah, based on the data like storage gen 2, it will cost you 15,000 monthly, and Azure Cosmos DB required $273, and then some of the event hubs you required, which is $10. So net if you combine everything to run the real-time analytics project, you need 20K budget on monthly basis, right? So that you need to check with your business whether the business can fund it, this 20K dollars. I mean, some cases you can tune this infrastructure. Let's say instead of storage level, right? Instead of using the Gen 2, you can go to the standard HDD storage. So you can tweak here and there a little bit, and you can adjust the cost, and you can reduce the cost. Okay, so that's about, if you don't know anything base information and you want to the order the infrastructure, you can go to the examples and you can place the infrastructure. But in our scenario, we have the reference already, the on-premises infrastructure we have. So now I know the server's configuration and all, and I want to meet the same benchmark in Azure. To do that, what I do, so I'll go and under the products tab, and I'll start procuring my virtual machine. So now what I'll do, I'll click the add to estimate. When I click add to estimate, it will, there is a pop-up window will come up. Click on the pop-up window, and then let me delete the old one. I don't want this anymore. Now I want to close this, and then I'll go to, oh, okay, everything gone. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll click on again. I want virtual missions. Click on add to estimate, and then click view. Now, so here is the costing window open. Now what I'll do, I'll select, I want my servers in EST US time zone, and I'm looking for the Windows. Okay, only if you're looking for OS only, then you can, the cost will be different. But in my scenario, I need SQL Server, so that's the reason I choose the SQL Server. The SQL Server will include the OS also. Okay, under that tier, so whether I'm looking for basic tier or standard tier, okay, the resources will be different. I'll choose standard tier. I don't want to change anything. Under the category, I want to tell the calculator that, okay, I'm going to use the memory optimized or memory optimized calculation in my project. Okay, and then here, so there are the different instances series are there. Okay, each series they have a different abbreviation. Okay, so why I'm saying that, some servers start with D and all, right? So they will provide the AMD servers. Some scenarios they will provide the Intel servers as your CPUs. You know that, right? Intel server is always having the hyper threading compared to the AMD. That means it's very fast, right? So now here I choose the EDS V series, V5 series, and then here I require, presently I have the 8 core processor in my on premises and 64 GB. So 8 core processor is, I have the same 8 CPUs, and then I'm looking for 64 GB RAM and 300 GB temporary storage. Temporary storage is nothing but whenever you do some calculations, right, all those will be captured under this 300 GB and dissolved as soon as the operation completes. Now I choose the 8 CPUs and 64 GB RAM. Once I done that, just need to mention that how many virtual machines I need with this configuration. In my scenario, I'm good with one virtual machine, but in your scenario, if you want to maintain the same configuration for test and prod, you can have it. But dev, you can always go for little low, right? So dev don't require like a production configuration, right? So but the formula that I follow, so my compared to the prod, my test environment configuration will be 50% of my prod environment. And when it comes to dev, my dev server capacity will be 50% of my test server. That's how I design and then follow that thumb rule. Okay, so I leave it to you. In your scenario, how many virtual machines required and how many environments you're maintaining. Based on that, you can place the number of virtual machines, and then number of hours that you're going to use these virtual machines. Don't change this configuration. 730 is nothing but your monthly. So they calculate 365 days. I mean, they do calculation of day wise, right? That's the reason they mentioned 730 hours, which is nothing but your entire year. Okay, and coming to the license, so within the license you can go for enterprise or standard or SQL web. I'll choose SQL enterprise. And then coming to the little bit low, come down, so you can see here, if you go with the standard saving plans, resort plans, like if you book for 3 years you will get more discount, and if you get savings plan, then you can get different discount. And then so you can OS level, you can choose the licensed included. Okay, so in our scenario, we choose a SQL Server. That's the reason OS is included, and SQL Server license is included. Now, all these cost around 28792. Okay, that is the cost for computation. Okay, so you're not come to the storage part. So now I'm going to select the disk. So under the disk, you have the different disks. Okay, standard HDD and standard SSD, and premium SSD and premium SSD V2. All these are like the read and write operations will be fast. Okay, so you can choose whichever you want, right? So if you click on here, then you will get the different configuration, right? So you, you can explore. Okay, so what is the difference between the premium SD and there is one more link. Let me go to here. uh, yeah, if you click here, let me see, create your own pay-as-you-go Azure virtual machines. Okay, I will take you there. Okay, somewhere we should have those details. Let me find standard HD and premium SD. So the read and write operations will be different. Okay, to view alter disk pricing, add storage account product, your estimate. Storage transactions and bandwidth. Okay, so that's different. But yeah, again, let me Google it. So you can Google it. What is the difference between the difference between uh, premium? What is that? Premium SSD. Yeah, premium SSD and premium SSD V2 in Azure. So Azure Managed Disk Types, you can go to here, and then you can see what is the read and write operations between the premium SSD V2 and standard premium. Okay, so all these details you can get it here. Only the difference is the read and write and the bandwidth between the disk and your servers will vary. Okay, so the concurrency and everything will vary when you choose the premium SSD V2. I mean, it's up to you. Generally, we recommend premium SSD V2 for your production, but for test, you can go for standard. Yeah, standard SSD is good enough. Especially when you have too many read and write operations, go for premium SSD V2. If you have a less read and write operations, then you can go for standard SSD, which will save your cost. Now, if I choose the premium SSD V2, then you can see how many disks, and I want to choose. I'm looking for the 500 GB disk size. Okay, so 500 GB disk size. I'm looking for one number of disks, and you can see the cost for this premium SSD V2 is $40, and you can see the number of ops. IOPS is the read and write operations per second, right? Which is 3000 read and write IO operations can happen, and then this thing you can change it. If you want more, then you can change it. The cost will vary based on your read and write operations. And instead of that, if you want to go for standard SSD, then it will you will not get all these options. Okay, how many IOPS you required, how many all those things, it will be controlled by them. So that is the key thing. So premium SSD V2, you can go for production, as I mentioned, where you will have full control. So IOPS is nothing but read and write operation. Throughput is it's a speed, network speed, right? So you will how much data that you can transfer from one place to another place. It will be 125 Mbps per speed, that you can change it based on your requirement. Right? These things can be played with based on your costing. By default, they given 125 Mbps, but if you want to change that to 450 Mbps, then it will change the cost. Okay, so that's about your selecting the storage and IOPS and throughputs. Again, all these can be changed once you procure. Okay, so since in our scenario we have on-premises our benchmark, and to meet the benchmark, we know the configuration. We choose the things that we need. But in your scenario, yeah, I would suggest go with a small dev server and then scale out from the dev server to test and then prod. When you move to the prod, you will be fully deployed your infrastructure for the to handle the huge user workloads. Okay, so that's how you can plan it. And then once it's completed disk, and then again bandwidth. So again, the data transfer, what is the bandwidth that you need inter-region or inter-aggressor, right? So all these region selections that you can do, it's like whether your application is going to the public or not, all these bandwidth control you can do. What is outbound data transfer? So uh, it will be like one region to another region. So if you store your data between the multiple regions, let's say you are doing the business in US and you have another branch in Australia, and the things should be in sync, right, to the Australia website also. So the such scenarios, this bandwidth will help you. Okay. Now, so I think I completed my shopping. I chose all my necessary things. Now, for each virtual machine, I'm going to pay $2,942 for only one virtual machine. If I go for multiple virtual machines, then the cost will change. Okay, so that's how we configured and procured the Azure infrastructure. Okay, so once we completed step two, and parallelly, my team is working on step one. Now my step one and step two is completed; both are ready. My Azure virtual machines are ready. So what we did, so as a first step, we moved the databases from on-premises to my virtual machine. Once that is completed, then we move the tabular cube to the Azure virtual machine, and we did a lot of regression testing and security testing and everything, how the users are accessing, and all this testing we completed. And then within these servers, we also enable the ETL, the SSIS packages, because we don't want to spend our money on the Azure Data Factory, and we want to reuse our existing SSIS ETL packages. So that's the reason we moved the SSIS ETL packages to same AVMs, Azure Virtual Machines. Once we're done, and what we did, so we refreshed the Azure Tabular Cube in virtual machine, and then parallelly we refresh the multidimensional cube. So both environment run parallelly for some time, and we open to the client. So we did the internal testing on the how the data quality between the multidimensional cube and tabular cube. Once we got the confidence, and then we opened for the client, and the client did their validation and their report migration from their end, because it's architectural design change, right, from multidimensional cube to Azure tabular cube. So they need to change their Excel reports and Power BI reports to the new tabular cube. There is no short way to migrate it. Simply you change the server name, and things will not work directly. So they need to build the reports again. They took some time, and finally we got sign off, and then we moved the uh, we consider that AVMs will be our production, and then we close that. And then step seven, we archived the on-premises database and everything, all the solution, and then we decommission the on-premises infrastructure, and we hand over to the our internal IT. From there onwards, we start using the virtual machine. So that's our journey, how we migrated our on-premises to Azure Cloud. So conclusion is, it's not like a simple one-day activity, as you know that. So if you don't have a any benchmark, start with small, ordering the small cloud server virtual machine, and then eventually start increasing the configuration within the servers and see how the performance and how the data loads are happening. Okay, so based on the workload, based on, you can define your own benchmarks. Let's say if you have a 1 hour time by using the virtual machine, how much data you can push it to the database, right? You can create such kind of statistics and create a benchmark. And when you're satisfied, go to the next step called test server. In test server is more or like a copy of your production server. Once the test server is good and things are working fine, then you can open for the client. When the client is approved, then order the prod server. Don't try to order dev, test, and prod servers at the same time, because you need a time to develop things in dev, right? So first you place the order for dev, then once you're good, then you place for the test, then test is good, then you go for the prod. So this way you can save some cost until you go to the production. And then second thing is, you need to spend a lot of time on the regression testing in terms of performance, database, read and write operations, how much the data volume can be handled, how the RAM and CPUs are able to handle the user request. These testing you need to do it very mandatory. And third step is security wise. Security wise, you need to test it because it's a cloud environment, right? So you need to do a lot of testing with internal internal network and external network, how it's secured, all those testings you need to done. Once you are good, then go to the production. Once you move to production, keep monitoring your resources, how the resources are being utilized, and whether you can tune any resources utilization. Fact, in Azure, you have some monitoring tools that you can, go to the home page, and then you can monitorize your virtual missions. I mean, I didn't created any virtual mission, so it won't allow me because I didn't opt it for anything. I need to opt for the free trial, but so far I'm using my organizational account to do all these things. But yeah, within this homepage you can see all the monitoring tools that are available within the Azure platform. So you can see monitor. So within the monitor, you can track your all the resource groups and everything, metrics and everything based on your consumption, production, how the production environment is using, and whether you can optimize anything. Like sometimes during the weekends you might not have a data loads, but that time you can set your virtual machines into sleep mode. That will save you some cost, right? So such kind of things you need to explore in the Azure platform. So that's about our migration story from on-premises to Azure Cloud. But yeah, so we did, enjoyed a lot while we migrating this project to the Azure Cloud. So you will be collaboratively working with many architects, standard enterprise architects, and you will define a lot of pros and cons, and everyone will share their knowledge, right? So it's a great experience for me, and to achieve this great milestone. That's about our story. I hope this video will help to the people who are, start their migration to the Azure or build their new project in the Azure. Please leave your comment in the comment section, and also you can share your other thoughts in the comment section. I hope you enjoy this video. If you feel this is useful, please like the video. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video with a different topic. Thank you.